All right, so in the third part of this, we bring it all together with a program called Blender. Again, freely available software that you can get online. For this one, you're going to go to blender.org. If you feel so inclined and you're finding a lot of value in this program, you should totally donate to support the Blender team and the future development of the software. All you're going to do off of this site is just download Blender and then install it. And once you do that, then we're ready to rock and roll. So I'm going to switch over to Blender, which I already have up. This is what the default screen looks like. And you just kind of click off of that. And you have what's called the default cube, the default light, which is up here. And then you've got a camera. And so what I want to start with is getting rid of this cube because I don't really need it. So you hit X and hit delete. I don't really want this light here either. So I'm going to hit X and delete. Next thing I have to do is import my model file, that DAE that we did in the first one. So I'm going to import the Collada DAE. I'm going to go look under downloads where I saved the thing. And here it is, YoBrixie minifig.dae. So I select that and I say import Collada. Now you can't see it because it's super small. So what I'm going to do is actually hit the S button and that's going to scale. So S, and then I'm going to say 30. And now we can see the minifigure character. So I hit 30 and then I say, and I go to return, put my two fingers on it and zoom in and zoom out. This just takes some practice to figure out how all these things work, and they work different here and in Mecha and everything else. I also want to go ahead and position my camera. So to do that, I'm going to bring up the right-hand menu by clicking the N button. And then what I want to do is go to View and Lock Camera to View. So what this does is once I get in the view mode with the camera, it allows me to move around in the camera as opposed to panning out of the camera and then having to move the camera. So if I go to view now and I say cameras, active camera, you see that it switches. Now it's moving the camera as I move around as opposed to if I take this off, it jumps out of the camera. So if I lock the camera to the view and I go to view the camera, then it puts the character where I want it to be in the screen, and I can zoom in until I see what I want, or I can zoom out and I can move by saying G to grow. So I can actually select the camera as an object, and you can see that it just selected it. You can see the yellow outline on it, and I want to G grow that on the Y axis so you can see the green line, and as I move forward, it's getting closer to the minifigure. Now I'm going to G grow move on the Z axis, which is up and down, and kind of bring it down so that my character is in the middle of the frame. I'm not too worried about other things on the screen right now. You can see that my character is not smooth. So to fix that, what I want to do is highlight all of my character. So now it's highlighted instead of the camera, as you can see. I'm going to go over to Object and Shade Smooth. Now you see that all of those lines have gone away. It's a whole lot smoother look at this point. So I want to get rid of this menu over here because it's just going to be in my way, and I want to look at some rendering stuff for a minute. So how the thing actually renders things out. I want to change the render engine from Eevee to Cycles. I'm going to go ahead and leave mine at 128 because I've got a pretty fast computer, but I know that you can do it at a lot lower levels. And so actually I'm going to drop this down to 64 just to show you, and you can use adaptive sampling or denoising, and what that's going to do is get rid of sort of little blips and blurs and firefly effects and things like that. So we're pretty set for that. I'm not really worried about where we save this to right now, but if you want to actually save the image as it's processing as animation, so you want to probably change the output folder to downloads. So I select the downloads folder and click accept. Now it shows up here. PNG is fine. We can actually render video with this. I don't typically recommend it in animation. A lot of times what I'll do is render out each frame as a TIFF and then put those things back together almost like a flipbook. But for now, we're fine with using a PNG. All right, so everything's kind of set to render. I'm going to change the environment a little bit. I want a little bit more light in this space. And so I'm going to brighten up the environment. And if I hit Z, you can see all the different options here. I can wireframe so that you can see through the character. I had it in solid mode, and what I want is material preview mode so I can kind of see what the environment looks like affecting the character. So you see how he's brightened up at this point because we've got a brighter environment. Okay, so the next things that we want to do are to change the shading of the character. So there's a lot of things up on this menu here. If we go over to shading, we can see our character. And again, I'm going to just go to view, and again, cameras, active camera, so that I can see the character very well here. Right now, I'm not selected on any particular part. So what I want to do is click on a particular part of the character, and I'm just going to select the chest to start. And you see these nodes show up in the screen down here. Now I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. And so you've got this thing called a principled BSDF, and that's a shader, and you can see that the color here matches up with the color there. And if I change this, all of the colors are going to change because they're all based on the exact same material slot over here, which is called MB5 for some reason. Now, I'm going to start with the skin. So I'm going to click here and change this to the word skin. And I don't really have a reference for the skin, so what I need to do is come over here and open up that Inkscape file that I had before. So I go to my downloads folder and I go, where's Gavin test face? Here it is. I select that and I say open it, and it has now imported that file in here, and I'm zooming out again to be able to see the entire face. If I click on the color and then I grab the eyedropper and select the skin, now this skin matches this. I know it doesn't quite look like it because of the lighting that is on the character, but this is now the skin color, which is going to be the hands, and it's going to be part of the face. And I'll change up some other things. One of the key things about a Lego minifig is that plastic look. Right now, we don't have it, and I'm not going to bother taking the time to show you what it looks like because it's just not the right plastic look. And so what I need to do is add some nodes. So I'm going to add a shader node here. And what I want to add is a glossy node to get some of that plastic look in there. And I've got to mix that together, so I need a mix shader. And I just drop that right on top of this line. I drag the white glossy on top of that. Now you can see how shiny that just became. So that's a little bit much. So what we do to temper that and make it look a little bit more plasticky is input Fresnel, grab the factor and drop it into the factor here. And this is what's going to actually look like Lego plastic. There's some other deeper kinds of techniques that I'll talk about in some later videos, but this is the basic sense of what I do. Now, I want to go ahead and give myself some different clothing and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and click on one of these legs. And so that I keep all of my nodes over here the same, I'm going to duplicate here by clicking this. Now it's skin point 001, but I'm going to click here and change this to jeans, and then or genus, right? So I meant to say jeans there. It doesn't really matter as long as I can figure out what it is. And so I want to change this to some sort of blue color for pants. We can get much more creative, just like I'm going to do with the face here in just a minute, and design clothing and put it on our minifigures. But for now, I'm just going to kind of do some very basic pieces. So what we do to change the material for each one is just to select that part, come over here, select the jeans off of this, and then we select our next part, come over here, select the jeans material, and now it's on all three of those. Now I'm going to move on to the shirt, and I'm just going to give myself a basic red shirt here. So again, I'm going to duplicate. It says skin 001, and I'm going to say red shirt. Good thing I spelled that one correctly. So all I do is come over and change the material. None of the rest of that stuff changes. I can select the arm, change that to red shirt, change this arm to red shirt, and now all I have to do is mess with my hair and the face. So my hair is basically this brown color off my eyebrows. So I select this, again it's skin, copy it, call it hair, change this with the eyedropper to the brown there, and now I've got brown hair. Now the final trick is the face, right? So the head already has skin on it, but I need to get this face onto the front of this part. So what I do is I go into edit mode, and you can do that through tab. Problem is right now I'm selected with individual points. What I want are faces. And what I want to be able to do is zoom in a little bit closer without moving the camera. So I'm going to unlock the view. I'm already unlocked. Good. So good to check that. So if I zoom in I'm not moving the camera, which is great because I don't want it to move. And I get closer. So I get closer to this face. And what I want to do is hit C. And if I move my fingers in and out, you see this circle getting larger and smaller. So what I want to do is just click and drag across where I want to put this facial structure. I'm going to go down a couple of lines. It doesn't really matter how far down you go. When I do my bearded stuff, I need to go down farther for the mouth and the bottom of the beard and whatnot. But this should really suffice. So then I hit escape to get rid of that circle, and all my selections are there. Now to make this work, we have to have another material because I'm not going to mess with this material on this object. It's going to stay skin. So I have to add a material. What I'm going to do is actually just add the skin again. So now I've got two skins. But now I'm going to duplicate this one so that I don't mess up the skin that I've got, and I'm going to call this one face. Now the difference here is I'm going to add a texture to this. So I go to Add, Texture, Image Texture. I drop that here, and I take the color of that and move it into the base color. And so there's nothing in there right now, but because I've already opened up the file, I don't have to open it again. I can just use this drop down, and it's a little bit hard to see, so I'm going to zoom in. I can use this drop down and use Gavin Test Face. It's not showing anything just yet because there's a couple of things I haven't done. First thing I have to do is assign it to that object. So I also have to unwrap these things so that they can take on a different texture. So if I touch the U key, it says UV mapping, and we just hit unwrap, you can now see that part of my face showed up over here. Well, that doesn't look the way that we want it to. So I go over to this thing called UV editing, and you can see that the part that I just unwrapped is this shape right here. If I come up here and select Gavin Test Face and zoom out, you can see how it's lining up and why, if I zoom in, why if I zoom in and I go to Material Preview, that my eyebrow and my eye are down there. So all I have to do in the UV editor is to arrange this so that the face is in the right place. So I need to rotate this 90 degrees to the right. So if I just do R to rotate and 90, because we're in 2 dimensions here, and I hit enter, it rotates it correctly. Then if I hit G to grow, which is the move function, and I start moving this around, you see the face on the right hand side moving. So it's somewhere around here, and then I need to S to scale, to clamp down on that, somewhere around in here, grow it again, to move it. And there's my surprise looking minifigure. So if I tab off of that, this is what my minifigure looks like without my beard, obviously. So if I shave my beard off and I look surprised, this is what I would look like. And that's really it in terms of creating the minifigure. Now all we have to do is render the thing. To render the image, all we do is go over here to render and render image. If you render animation, it will render the entire thing. And there you have it, the basic result. What you want to do now is to save this because it won't save it for you in render image mode. So you have to go to save, give it some sort of name. I'm going to put mine under downloads as I do with everything else. I'm going to call this Lego Gavin Final and save the image. Obviously, we didn't do anything fun with the background. We'll talk about scenery and stuff in later videos. But if I go over here to my Finder, we can see in my downloads that Lego Gavin Final is there. If I double click on it, this is what the PNG image looks like. And that's it. Happy creating.